Alright, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, who rule very well, very beautifully. Double salutations to the Akim out here pushing this gospel in truth and in sincerity to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord willing, fall upon your houses. This is Brother Corner Watts from Arizona Great Millstone Camp. Come back at you, Lord will, with the edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. And in this lesson, we're ultimately going to be going into, Revelations, the 12th chapter and the 17th verse, right? Because we are in the time, of the building and the starting of Jacob's trouble, right? Which is the hour of temptation. Matter of fact, we'll go ahead and grab that in Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 7. It says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. Right? Imagine that all these different situations and events, right, that ultimately happen throughout history, right, that you can read about, right? All these different situations that we read about and how bad they were at this time that is coming, right, is going to be far greater, and it's going to eclipse all those moments. As it reads again in Daniel's 12 and 1, Matthew's 24 and 21, right? It's going to be really a terrible time, man. A mass death, right, is going to, unfold all over the earth, right? It says, but he shall be saved out of it, and that's talking about the elect, man, right? Those that truly believe, in Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, right, and are proving their faith in these times. Those are the ones that Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is ultimately going to protect, right, and raise up a standard for in these times to come. But again, it is, right, Jacob's trouble, man, right? So our faith, right, is to be tested, in these times to come, man. So I want to go back to this Revelations chapter 12 and verse 17, because again, we are in the time of Jacob's trouble, right? Esau coming after, the Israelites, right? Again, right? Ezekiel 35 and 5, right? He has a perpetual hatred for the Israelites, right? You so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? As well as you Israelite foreigners, but again, mainly, right, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, man. The ones, that look so-called black, the ones that look so-called Latino, right, Native American, right? We're in the time where he is coming up against us, man. Right? Verse 17, Revelations 12 and 17, it says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, and that dragon, right, let's actually go into that word, right? It's talking about Esau, Edom, right? It says that dragon, Strong's G 1404 and 144, called Lord Yahweh Shemel Shah. But it says dracon, right? Which goes back to draconian, right? Draconian, right? It says a dragon, a great serpent, a name for Satan, right? Let's go to this, right? Draconian on the online etymology is pertaining to Draco. It says rigorous, extremely severe or harsh. Esau, is a damn devil, man, and he don't show any mercy. He don't show any mercy. And the Lord's not going to give him any mercy, right? It's James 2 and 13, right? He shall have judgment without mercy to him that have shown no mercy. Esau is not a merciful man, and we're seeing, again, that true nature of Esau, Edom, right? That bloody and deceitful man, right, coming out. There was a video, brothers have posted, right, of, the sheriff from Florida basically saying that, hey, if you throw rocks or if you throw, and this is a part in the video, right? He said a lot more than this, but he said if you're throwing rocks, if you're throwing Molotovs, he said then you're going to, I think he said something to the degree, but, he said basically we're going to kill you, man. He said we're going to shoot you grave dead. And, Lord will, I'll put the video, post-production or pre-production, so y'all can see it, man. This is how Esau Edom is coming, man. He's coming hard, man. You know, he's not playing anymore, right? Esau is showing his true colors, right? And it's only going to continue to get worse, right? Because this is only the tip of the iceberg, man. You know, the tip of the iceberg. You know, the full implementation of Jacob's trouble is, you know, the mandatory implementation, you know, of the RFID microseal, which is the mark of the beast, man. You know, but see, Esau, you know, is you know, working his way that way, right? He's deporting a lot of these people, you know, that are out here. You know, again, mainly, you know, the northern tribes, right? Your so-called Latinos and Native Americans. You know, and now, you know, he is basically saying right here, I think I have it pulled up right here in Newsbreak. It says U.S. orders 500,000 citizens of 4 countries to leave, and as we get into this article, those who he allows to come here, now he's saying he wants them to leave. It says hundreds of thousands of immigrants who were given special permission to come to the U.S. will be told that they must leave the country immediately. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement Thursday that Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans who were previously temporarily scheduled from deportation will be email notices telling them to go, right? And see, these are Israelites, man, right? When you go back into the 12 tribes chart, right, it ultimately gives you the list of the different names, right, the modern names, right, for the different tribes. You can look it up. You know, this is information you can look up 12 tribes chart, you know, and you can see it, man, right? Which again is that woman, right? Going back, right? It says what the dragon, which we know is Esau Edom, right? The one who's, you know, making these harsh laws and again coming down hard, right? It says with the woman. It says which again, when we go back, I want to grab this real quick first. This is Jeremiah. Was that 6 and verse 10? Oh, it's like it. Jeremiah 10 and 2. It says, it's like it. Hold on. What is that? Yeah, Jeremiah 6 and 2. So like, it says Jeremiah 6 and 2. It says, I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. Right? So it's talking about, you know, Israel. Right? Right? That woman. Let's go back. That woman, right? That's talking about the nation of Israel. Right? So I do want to go back and go into that word woman. Right, Strong's G 1135, Guneo, right? It says of a betrothed woman, right? And see, the Israelites, right, are the wife. I think it's Isaiah. What is that? 5. Come on, right here. Isaiah 54 and verse 5, it says, for thy maker is thine husband, and Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushua of hosts, is his name, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the power of the whole earth, shall he be called, right? So again, right, we are the wife, right, the woman, you know, of you know, the Heavenly Father through his only beloved begotten Son, you know, and Esau is ultimately trying to, you know, get rid of us, you know, in a sense, man, right? Which goes back to Revelations 12 and 17, where, you know, we'll read it back through. It says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, right? So Esau's coming in and basically trying to get rid of us, man, you know. So as of right now, you know, we see, you know, right through Esau Edom's plan, right? He's, you know, basically deporting, you know, a lot of these Israelites and try to get them out of the country, you know, and you know, so that way he can ultimately, you know, allow them to come back later, you know, and make it the C hit mandatory, right? Because that's what we're looking forward to, right? Is the mandatory implementation of the RFID micro C hit, which is the mark of the beast, right? But at the same time, right, he's trying to cause an uprising so that way, you know, the killing can start. You know, that civil war, right, which is prophesied to happen, you know, in Isaiah the 19th chapter, right, the second verse, Egyptian versus Egyptian, right, is ultimately, you know, is brewing right now as well, man. You know, so prophecy is really popping off the pages. You know, the elder apostles, right, of Great Millstone on down, you know, the elder bishops, elders, Akim, right, you know, have been, you know, prophesying the true prophecy, how about Shemel Shah. We've been telling y'all about this time that's, you know, to come, right, Jacob's trouble, right, about it coming, and now it's happening. Right now we're at the beginning stages, right, of Jacob's trouble itself, right, where Esau, as we're reading, right, it's like here. It's like, you know, Esau is, you know, coming down having great wrath, right, as, you know, we read in Revelations 12 and 12, right, let's jump to it. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Right? So who, you know, Esau's coming down on, you know, upon Israel, you know, but really those, you know, who are you know, revealing his agenda. And this is why he's coming with these stringent laws as well, right? These draconian laws, right, as well. Scriptures say that, you know, he spake as a, you know, he had two horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon, right? Going back to that word dracon, right, being a harsh, rough, right? Not only is he acting rough, right, we're seeing it right now, he's acting, you know, merciless, you know. He's establishing, you know, different laws, right, that are, you know, preventing those who are speaking against him, you know, to continue to speak against him, right? So again, you know, going back to these anti-Semitism, you know, laws, you know, going back to, you know, you're not even able to hold them accountable, right? Mayor Adams, right, going back to I think it was recently, he just passed, you know, certain policy, right, for speaking against the JOOs, right, when dealing with the H cost, right, and you know, ultimately holding them accountable for the things that they're doing, right? That the things that the government or the state of Israel is doing, right? As we see over there in with the Palestinians in Gaza, right? What he's doing with the Iranians and the Lebanese, you know, the Syrians, right? And we're not allowed to hold them accountable for those things, man. You know, and I did a lesson on it earlier, you know, but this is just to add on to that, man. I was just meditating on this precept, man. You know, going back and reading it, you know, going through it, looking up a few words, man. But, you know, hey, the spirit is heavy. These are the times that we are in, right? But I'll read it again, verse 17. It says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, right? Esau versus Jacob, right? The age old, you know, narrative, right, since the beginning, right, going back to, you know, Genesis, the 25th chapter, when Esau and Jacob were born, right, they were fighting in the womb, man, right, even going before that, right, going back to, you know, Cain and Abel, man, you know, the spirit of Cain, right, is in Esau, Edom today, right, and we see it, right, that murderer from the beginning, as it says in John 8 and 44, right, year of your father the devil, man. You know, really that was speaking of, you know, the wicked Israelites, but, you know, that's Esau, Edom is the wicked, right, the son of perdition. Job 9 and 24, he is the wicked, you know. So we apply that to Esau, Edom, really, you know. He's a liar from the beginning, you know, because that was you know, Esau's wicked as hell, right? So we know that's Esau, Edom, right? It says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, the Israelites, right? It says, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, right? Esau's coming after us. All these different nations that have come across, you know, the border invasion, and was openly recorded. Different reporters, right? Throughout the years, right? Esau, just allowing this to go through. And who are they focused on? The Israelites, man. Esau knows who the Israelites are, man. They know who we are, right? The only thing is we didn't know who we were, but now Yahweh Shemel Shah, again, going back to, starting with Abba Bivens, 1969, 1970, right? We now know who we are, right? The Lord has ultimately, knowledge is increased in the earth, right? By way of the prophets, the true prophets, Yahweh Shemel Shah, So now Esau's got to hurry up, and do what he's got to do, man. And this is why, again, he's, order Abkeo, right? Creating the chaos, right? Forcing people out. You know what I mean? And, and at the same time, working his NWO, right? Being harsh, working his NWO, making it setting up the infrastructure, right? As we've been seeing, right? Throughout the years, the decades, he's been setting up the infrastructure, right? Going back to your cards, going back to your phones, TVs, so on and so forth, right? The technologies kept getting smaller and smaller and closer to man, Instead of having a laptop, now you got a cell phone you can carry everywhere. Instead of having a TV, now you got your phone you can carry everywhere. You see what I mean? Now they got watches, now they got rings, they even got contact lenses, now they got the glasses, and we see that they're already making what we're in mass producing now, the RFID micro C with the one that goes in your hand and the one that goes in your head, and now they're broadcasting that, right? So we've been seeing over the years, and the true prophets Yahweh Shemel Shah have been speaking on this. Great Millstone as a whole has been speaking on this the whole time. Again, beginning with the elder apostles of Great Millstone on down to the young brothers such as myself. We've been speaking on it for years, and now it's coming to pass, right? It says which keep the commandments of the Most High and have the testimony of Yahweh Shah Mashiach, right? Because it isn't just, again, right, the average Israelites, man, right? Jake is easy to deceive, and this is how Esau has ultimately started these whole riots and whatnot. He's got his actors and out here, and Jake is falling for the okie doke, but he knows he hasn't deceived, right? All the prophets, And this is why he's setting up the harsh legislation to stop them from being able to use, right, their platforms, right, that Esau created. The Lord had this devil create this platform, right, so that we can use, right, the internet, right, so that we can use it, right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shemel Shai, right, to spread this gospel, man. Hey, the Lord is cold, man. Got Esau in the trick bag, but Esau think he got us in the trick bag, The deceived and the deceiver are his, right? The Yahweh Shemel Shas, So again, Esau's trying to stop us from preaching this truth, but see, at the end of the day, right, all he's doing is just feeding into prophecy, and he don't know it. You do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. Him coming down this hard, again, is feeding into prophecy. Going into Second Esdras, the 15th chapter, right, verse 16 on down. Soon 15 on down, right? People are actually using swords, right? These modern day guns, right? We haven't seen that yet in any of the protests, but hey, shit, it could get there real quick. It can get there real quick at any moment, right? The protests in 35 cities, 19 states, and then they're talking about no King's Day, man. Esau been, again, in the information of, Jade Helm 15 is coming out heavy, right? An exercise that, Esau's military specialist, did back in 2015. Hey, so we're in very, beautiful times, right? According to prophecy, and then now more than ever, we need to continue to trust and believe in Yahweh Shemel Shah to the best of our ability, man. Right? And, despite, right, how things look, remain faithful to Yahweh Shemel Shah. But I just wanted to grab that. Actually, you know what? We'll go ahead and go this too, man. I had a precept. Oh, yeah. This one right here. 1 Corinthians 15, verse 57. It says, but thanks be to the Most High, which giveth us the victory through our Lord Yahweh Shah HaMashiach. So, hey, Lord will, right, we be part of the elect, man. We've already got the victory. You know, we just have to, you know, as it says in Matthew 24, right? He that shall endure unto the end, right? We're endure in our faith and belief and trust in Yahweh Shem Shah despite the situation, right? And how it looks and how it feels, right? Because it might not feel too good, it might not look too good, but understanding and believing that Yahweh Shem Shah put us in the situation and he can get us out, you know, that will, you know, ultimately fuel that, you know, that endurance, you know, having faith in Yahweh Shem Shah, right? Knowing that through Yahweh Shah, we already got the victory, you know. Again, Lord, will we be part of the elect? Because that's who he's coming to deliver. Matthew the 24th chapter, around 29 and the 31st verse. That's who he's coming. He's going to send his angels, right, to gather the elect from the four winds of the earth. You know, so the elect already got the victory. We read about it, right? Second Ezra, the second chapter, you know. A beautiful account of what it's going to be like. Isaiah the 60th chapter, right, to a certain degree. You know, so, hey, Lord, will we be at that number? We already got the victory, so we have nothing to worry about, right? Verse 58. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast and unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. That's right. Right? So continue to have faith. Continue to pray. This is time to pray more. You know? If you're only praying once a day, pray twice a day, 3 times a day, 4 times a day. You know? Pray as many times as on your spirit to do so. You know? Because we need to. We need it. We need Yahweh Shem Shai. You know? Well, that's all I got, man. Lord wills, edifying. Lord wills, straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rechak Badash. Double honors to the elder apostles, the elder bishops, the great millstone. Till next time, I say shalom.